Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Sunanta Siviset, a project manager from HRLA, Human Rights Lawyer Association. I'm the moderator for today's session. And first of all, thank you for joining us today. Currently, we have 57 people registered, 20 from Thailand, 13 from the Philippines, 7 from Malaysia, 6 from Indonesia, and some others from the USA, Sri Lanka, and Taiwan, Germany, and Nepal. Some of them might not be able to join us today. We'll also have a Zoom recording for all of you, which will be posted on our website later on. And please see the link in the chat box, and it will direct you to our website. And we are glad to be part of this program to facilitate the knowledge sharing event for DDP Network in Southeast Asia. By having this opportunity, we'll get ourselves more ready for freely expressing our views and at the same time protecting personal and digital privacy. HRLA, in collaboration with the American Bar Association Rule of Law Initiative, or ABA Rowley, we organize a 1-hour session on a monthly basis. And today is our 4th session. The next session is at the last week of January. Next year, we'll be sending you the registration link to your email. And our session today is 1 hour, and the last 15 minutes will be Q&A. So if you have any question, please write them in the chat box, and our speaker will answer your questions. All right, without further ado, let me introduce our today's speaker. We're pleased to have with us an expert in legal aspect of human rights defending, Ms. Kunthika Nutcharut. Ms. Kunthika is an attorney at law from Krisadang Nutcharut Law and Accounting Office, specializing in PDPA, data privacy policy, defense lawyer, and criminal litigation. And she has been actively contributing to offering pro bono legal services to Thai activists at Thai Lawyers for Human Rights, an NGO in Thailand, advocating the freedom of speech and contributing to, she also contributed to the 37th anniversary event of Thammasat University Massacre. And we believe that her insights will be valuable for our discussion today on privacy and data protection. So without further delay, let's welcome Ms. Kunthika Nutcharut to share her knowledge with us.
Hi, is Mr. Weiss okay? Can anyone raise hand if my microphone's working? Yes, perfect. First of all, sorry for the voice. It appears that Christmas has gotten to my voice now from all the outing that we are having. I would like to start by explaining how and why I would like to maybe it would be of interest if my expertise would be related to the state of privacy and data protection in Thailand. In 2016, in my master in Germany, I got a specialization in international arbitration and international human rights with a master on right to be delisted, which showcased the case of Google profiling and Google filtering of speech, where actually in Europe back then it is seen as one of the major crucial processing of information that might concern abuse. So, and afterward, I worked in Germany for a time. In the time that GDPR was launched, got I think someone is waiting to get into the room. Sorry for interrupting myself. Anyway, So back in Thailand for 2 years now, I'm an attorney of law. We do compliance for PDPA. It doesn't really relate to all the topic regarding data protection and privacy. So right now, the whole the whole presentation that I'm going to walk you through will be divided into three parts, which is maybe a slight overview, which some of you might already know, but because some of the people in Thailand might not be accustomed to it, I would like to give maybe maximum 10 minutes, the overall background of the idea, and then we will focus on the part that where is the legal tool in Thai legal system, where is the harmful legal tool, where is the legal basis that people can defend themselves, and then we would move on to talk about the aspect of it that I have seen as an obstacle for Thailand in 2024. And also at the end, I would really much like to discuss some interesting literature by amazing organization coming out this year that might relate it to the state of Thailand. And also some actual case that I have seen in the last 2 years. So most of the case, I already got consent from my client to tell their story. Some of the case are outsourced news. That must be put on a disclaimer. Ne? So let's go. Why I would, this slide is just a start. I would take no more than 10 minutes to talk about it. So in Thailand, one of the major obstacles that I found since I moved back is that sometimes people misunderstood that privacy and digital privacy and data and personal data and data protection is everything the same thing. So in this regard, I would like to just give you an example of things that you might have already have a rough idea what it is. For example, a PDPA. That is a law actually established to control data processor, data controller, give them responsibility in a way to protect your data more, data and sensitive data. That's a very simplified version of what I'm trying to say, what PDPA, the Thai PDPA is for. So in that realm, data protection, it means that data protection is not everything privacy and it's not everything digital privacy. Because you see, the notion of privacy has been here in our world on earth for probably longer than World War II itself. And people recognize that privacy is one of the right that is entitled to us. It's not absolute right, of course. Sometimes it come in clash with other right, like the right for other people to express themselves and so on. However, gradually from time, when we move from analog world into digital world, some of our privacy might be intruded because a digital world have a very important aspect that is different than an analog world, which is everything can be easily recorded, everything can be not so easily delete, and everything can be stored forever, everything can be pulled up, you can profile people, you can do a lot of things with this fast progressing technology. Therefore, now in 2000, I think since 2015, we are talking about how to protect your data and sensitive data and personal data, and also under one of the aim that we want to achieve the privacy right, especially digital privacy. Up until this point, has anyone questioned? I'm trying to make it very fast, but because I don't know, some of you are like maybe already read all the literature and it's a boring thing. But if you have question, please do text us in the meeting chat so that before we move on, I could verify that. But if not, I would go to the real topic. Okay, so if no one is asking anything, I would just want to start focusing only on Thailand. So when we talk about Thailand and we talk about privacy in Thailand and the data protection, the state of it in Thailand, of course, when we first have to look on what is the legal basis? What is the legal tool that exists since today? What is there in our law? Because Thailand is a code law, we are civil law. So most of the legal basis, of course, derive on something protected under the constitution. And also we would dive into how those legal tools can be harmful. What approach can it be used, in what nature will it become harmful to us as a citizen of Thailand? And then I would talk about the obstacle we have been seeing since, let's say, the rise of privacy. In the wake of privacy and data protection, what is going on in Thailand? Is there any obstacle? Is there a lack of anything? What can we do? What's the proposal? And then I would also, at the last part, I also want to talk about real cases that's happening in Thailand that is related to abuse of data protection and privacy rights, so that maybe some of you can relate to where you are. Maybe it's aspect that you have already progressed. Maybe you already figure it out how to protect your citizen from that, and maybe we could share that. So about the legal basis and legal tool in Thailand, of course, we do have some protection under international law and national law. I think the international law, of course, all the relevant treaties, we are actually a party to all the core international human rights treaty, but in this case, I think some of the most important one when we talk about privacy right would be ICCPR and ICSCR and CRC. So for example, ICCPR Article 17 does talk about that. And since we are party, so that's like the governing international law that we of course should follow. I'm not sure if we did that all the time. Additionally, we're also on Convention 108, which is a very interesting one because that one has a high relation. It's like it's very closely related to the GDPR of the European Union. So in that sense, if any of you are interested in reading on a particular law from this slide, you can just check it out. I would suggest that for me, Convention 108 is the most important one, and probably your country are already has already signed and ratified it. So back to the Thai national law. In Thai national law, it appears that we have some sort of protection and guarantee in the constitutional tool by wording, but that part is a little bit vague and unprecise. Here I am showing you the translation of the section that most academic would say this is what guarded the right to privacy. The Constitution have said it like this. So in English version, it actually say that a person shall enjoy the rights of privacy. Did someone write on that? But thank you. I think that's not me, but okay. Have did anyone write on the slide? No. What's going on? Oh yeah. Anyway, it's just gonna be a waste of time. I'm just going to go on. Can one of the girls text me if I can fix this? Maybe there's some, maybe my bad on my part. I'm so sorry. Anyway, legal basis and legal tool. Back to the constitution. Actually, Thai constitution section 32 did talk about privacy, but in the Thai wording, it doesn't actually say rights of privacy. What it say is that a person actually have the right to live alone. That's something very close to the American notion of what privacy is, which is in itself a little bit different than what the European would think privacy is. Like there's two school, people say there's two school of what privacy is. I think both of them are highly linked, and in court as a practitioner, you can use both argument. Anyway, because there is such a difference in the understanding and also the translation itself, in my opinion, before the court, sometimes it is still quite gray and quite not so sure if we can really argue that the right to be living alone would meant that all Thai citizens are fully entitled to the rights of privacy. On the other hand, as a practitioner, I always strive to say that of course this is 100% rights of privacy, but that is one of the nitpick that I think all the practitioner here, maybe there's some attorney here in Thai attorney, you might need to also look into before you really make that argument. Now we go back to the Thai legal tool. One of the very first legal tool that was mentioned, also from Graham Greenleaf, for example, one of the earlier academic who did study on this topic, he would say that even before PDPA, we already have the Official Information Act, which is in Thai พรบข้อมูลข่าวสาร Why would people think that this is one part of data protection that is related, highly related to the fact that because the notion of data protection is not to mainly trying to lock your data away and not showing people anything, but it is because the notion of data protection is actually for you to be able to gain control of data that is rightfully yours or that you should have known. So in a part of this Thai Official Information Act, it talks about how Thai people as a citizen can go to government officer and can also ask and get to know what's going on, what's the process of some certain information about the work of this government office and so on. And then we also have PDPA. We're gonna talk in depth with PDPA later on because I'm gonna give you a link about a great site. It's an organization called iLaw. Will be very useful for Thai practitioner. They're talking about also the downside of PDPA because, of course, as you know, you can write a lot of law and it will sound great. Everything will be perfect until you give it a big chilling effect by giving it a lot of exception on everything. So also, I would like to highlight that in the practitioner world, data protection and privacy is not only PDPA related. Sometimes other applicable law that already exists in Thailand might apply. For example, it might be tort, could also be defamation if it's something of your personal data that was published out. So in that regard, for Thai practitioner, I have talked about this, I think last year on the ABA Rolly project. They probably still have a video in this one. It's in Thai. It talks about how you should approach your case when you have an event that you still need to pinpoint what kind of law will you draft in your indictment, what kind of defense you should have if there's such a scenario. And I think that can be checked by HRLA personnel. They probably can send you a link right now. It's all in Thai. So when we see all of this, when we see the structure, then it appears very clearly that Thailand does have protection structure on privacy and data protection. However, is it when you ask yourself, is it really, really safe? Then we must also look at some other more specific law that is there to give to grant the government or also the judicial system some extra legal basis to go against what's actually the core belief in the right. So because sometime, and I think a lot of country, I would suspect in Southeast Asia, most of the country have that legal base already, and also in the GDPR and in Europe, most of the time there will be special law or exception in the same law that if there is for the reason of social security on the grounds of public goods, stuff like that, there will be an exception that entitle other party to intrude to your personal or data. So that's in a way that's the case where a citizen has no right to argue that his personal data or his data without his consent cannot be taken by other party and cannot be processed. So in Thailand, sadly, we do have a lot of such law. I am actually on the opinion that we do not actually need all the law. We actually need a strong judicial system. For example, like a judge who would effectively exercise his right in the motion, and then we do not need to have so many complicated related law. Anyway, but here we are. I would like you to maybe just skim over it, and I will just talk very shortly about what it is, because I do believe that you just need to be able to navigate yourself through the Thai structure and the law, but you do not, at this point, because you're not working about it, you do not need to be an expert. So the Special Case Investigation Act, this one is in Thai, Prabh DSI, and also Computer Related Crime Act. This is a famous one. This is we call it in Thai Parabol. Why is it a famous one? Because many time in Thai, if you follow human rights case, environmental case, you will see that this law have been used against many activists, be it environmental activists, human rights activists, especially sometimes they're used in pair with the Article 112 of the Thai criminal law, which is less majes. In that way, most of the case that is related in this two law, if you see in the evidence filed by the prosecutor, you will see some sort of information that came from, I don't know, nowhere. It has already break the chain of custody. Maybe it's information that it's not even about the defendant but someone else, for that they would build a case up. But since it's already break the chain of custody in a normal criminal law world, the court should not hear it. However, in practice, the court will still try to believe that those. I have seen many times in the verdict they say because the police take a stand and talk about it, and therefore they believe that it's likely a believable piece of data. The problem is not that. The problem is actually, in that case, if the awareness of privacy is really high in Thai society, the lawyer would have already argued, where did they get that piece of data? Did you have the consent of that third party? Information like banking can be something highly sensitive. So how did you get that? So there's a high link between when this law were used in indicting people and how actually Thai citizen personal data has been collected, has been leaked, has been processed, and has been used in profiling a case against one individual. The other two is a little bit tricky. This one, National Intelligence Act, I would say it's called, I think, พรบข่าวกรองแห่งชาติ and the other one is Cybersecurity Maintenance Act, come out from the same year. It's พรบมั่นคง Cyber in Thai. I would talk about these two hand in hand because, in a sense, they have very similar general idea why they have this, but the most important part for us that we are interested in is the link that I post here, some interesting literature available, sadly only in Thai. However, what we're looking here is that sometimes special law in Thailand give the police the right to intrude into your phone, into your personal gadget, and these are those law. So the website that I'm sending here, they are sadly in Thai, like I said, but most of they make like a great tablet, a great table on that, and you can see that it's immense. So in a sense that so many written law, I would conclude that there's so many written law that actually entitle government officer to be able to enter your private space, to be able to conduct search, to be able to do things without your consent, retrieve your data without your consent. And in a way, those are the law. Also, one of the things that many academic in Thailand has been arguing, I do not, for a disclaimer, I do not yet, up until now, have problem with this part yet, but we also have never made such argument in court. Maybe in the next 10 years there will be one. But the Thai PDPA exception is actually very problematic in the academic world. I have seen time and time professor making an argument that the exception in the PDPA would actually pardon most of the government officer from any repercussion and responsibility. And also, there is a ground to actually get your information without consent. However, as a practitioner, I'm looking at it in a way that if you really understand that how the functionality of PDPA and GDPR, it's also quite easy to argue that in that regard, when that officer, for example, intrude into your house, maybe for personal gain, he doesn't get the protection under this exception, especially in PDPA case. But what's most dangerous aspect of all the law, in my opinion, would be the tradition in Thai code law that the government tends to draft very, very big word. For example, national security, ความมั่นคงแห่งชาติ many times and times again, High Court, first of instance, second instance, and also Supreme Court, no, Constitutional Court, many times they have deemed that this sort of wording, national security, in a very vast way. They have many times, if you read and study the wording, most of the time the court tend to implement a very vast meaning of what exactly is national security. One can say that it might be because right now Thailand is going through huge change since I think last 3 years, and there is a lot of difficulties between two very different ideas of politics. But in that sense, when there is such difference in what exactly can be freedom of speech, it's very problematic when those laws are giving the government all the power and also came with a very, very vague and not certain choice of wording. Then in a case like this, I'm gonna showcase it later on at the end of the presentation. But overall, up until this point, this is the legal structure of what we're having in Thailand when regarding the topic. Now, I'm going to talk about Thailand now, but since I cannot stop talking about this case. This is like one of the cases that I found early on this year. It's actually uncontested so far, the first case that the indictment used mainly PDPA, I think. They talk about the fact that the banker and the debtor are giving away people personal data and sell them to people who would buy, we call it date debt. So you will buy unpaid debt, and then you would keep calling those people, harass them, telling them to pay. So this is one of the very first case that I've seen this year. This case gave me a very good feeling because it felt like maybe in the future we will see a lot of case, and then it could predestine and shape the privacy area in Thailand. But so far, I asked around and I also did not see so much more. We've seen now pending cases, or we have seen now a guideline coming out from various firm, DPA, DPO, a lot of organization, but a very straight, clear case about something like that. Like you would have seen in Europe, I do not so far see it yet. If anyone have seen it or know about it, you can chat here also so that I can collect the information. Is anyone asking anything? No? Okay.
We do have a question from the audience. She said, please share about the right to online anonymity.
Oh, that one has to be at the end, or I can email you later. I did not have like specific one about that. But of course, if you talk about that in the PDPA, it's one of the thing. I think you're talking about you're Thai, right? I think you're talking about ให้เอาชื่อออกมาแบบว่าเปลี่ยนชื่อเป็นนามปากกาอะไรได้ That's actually something very similar to what is in GDPR. It's if I would share anything on that, I would just share that there is a strict guideline from the EU that you can follow, and then you'll be safe and good to go. But But if you're looking for the aspect of the anonymity where you want to hide your personal data through um, big data processing, like for example, information about your health that is sometimes published or can be published in the journal, then normally the guideline like normal, like in Europe, like normally the guideline go like that, but um, about the anthropological aspect of it, I think we do not have enough time. I can send you some link. There's a great link. It's from I think the Spengler, like one of the German publisher. They wrote about it quite well. One of the short thing that I can share right now, however, is for example, um, well, the friend asked about the anonymity has some interesting aspect because Thai people have been using it on child case for some time now. But what they did, like even before PDPA, but what they did is not so correct because you have to understand that the intention of changing someone's name or making anonymize it or change it into a pseudonym is to be able to not connect it, the person to the data or to something that might expose them of having something that they do not consent of giving away. And in a sense, for example, in Thai case, like long time, 10 years, 5 years, you will see in the news, um they would actually talk about a kid who maybe got assault, a young girl, and they would say digging A or digging B, lady A or lady B. That's also a part of trying to not link her to what she is, so that maybe one day she can start a new life. No one would know that this is her. But somehow other thing that they publish in the law, for example, what police station is that, how old is she, what school she is, make it super easy for actually when a person like maybe Arthur Conan Doyle will wake up and then recognize that that's the girl. So that's like what I have to share on that. But if you want, I will send HRLA more literature about that and then you can read more into it. Sadly, they don't have enough, they don't have too much in Thai. You would find that in more like a private sector. So in a PDPA training of some firm like Chandler or other thing. Now, when we start that, so I think that about the anonymity and the problem in the journalists, about the problem in the news that I say, then it's actually very related to the next slide because in my working last 2 years since PDPA came into power, came into effect, the obstacle is one of the biggest obstacle I think is the lack of advocacy and comprehension. The public also lack awareness of the risk factor. For example, if you ask in Thailand, if you would ask your mom or your older relative about if they are concerned about their privacy, they would say no. Because in Thailand, the awareness for most local household are still, I'm still in my house. No one can intrude me. And the man is the owner of his own castle. He can be naked, he can be anywhere, he can do whatever in the parameter of his own house. But when you paraphrase the question and you ask them, but aren't you scared of when Facebook show you an ad that you just talked to your spouse yesterday about going to Chiang Mai? And then now that's the time where they start, oh yeah, maybe there's something going on. But only because of that, it's not enough and it doesn't equip the people enough to be so aware to the point that they know that this is a real danger. They sometimes, with the lack of comprehension, it makes people feel like they easily give away their consent. And in Thailand, I think that's one of the biggest obstacle because without really governing system and effective DPA and DPO, right now we're having people giving hell lot of consent and also not really caring about what it has been processed on. So now we don't have actual support after the consent, and also the people rarely would ask to deregister their consent. And in that regard, it's also because we don't have any actual means to obtain real knowledge. So since the PDPA came only because it was, I would just say, a copy version of what a GDPR is. But what we're having in Europe is a long fight, long tradition since Convention 108, since World War, since since we know that processing data can kill lives, can help annihilate nation. So because of that, in Europe, sometimes people have deep down more notion of how serious getting your data out there and getting it processed by other people who you cannot trust is. But because in Thailand, there's no actual means, even the history background, there's no actual means to obtain that knowledge anywhere. We don't have the history that support that certain character. And also there's up until now no relevant case, presiding case, not like Google Spain, not like delisting, right to be forgotten, not like bankruptcy, not like the French CNIL. So we don't have that yet. And that three part of the first slide together makes it really hard for any advocator as an NGO or human rights activist to actually um, really succeed showing out to the public the from the front end to the last part how processing your data without your consent would can totally destroy your life, or how not having the right to delist something out of Google will get you repeatedly profiling in the same way for the next 10 years. Now, one of the things that we have to talk about when it comes to human right aspect is that, like I said, when you work in human right case, not everything is about PDPA. Sometimes privacy just means a police came into your house without a warrant and conduct illegal search. Sometimes it just means tort. It just means that they stop you without a warrant and conduct a search in your car. And with that, we actually have enough legal basis on that. We have all the constitution, we have everything. We're based on, I think, fairly good criminal law and criminal procedural law, but somehow when it goes to the court, all of this um, theory, chain of custody, tort, or anything was never taken into consideration. If you try to argue in the aspect that this is not something that the defendant has given consent on, and sometimes most of those evidence are the evidence that convict those people. So in my opinion, one of the things that could help fasten the whole process is that we should really educate more judges to be aware of all this theory so that they can Fairbairn. So that they can improve their system in a way that even if we would have a lack of law, we would still be constitutionally ensured our rights. No? I would like to talk about the case study. I see that I'm gonna take all of your time. Anyone have questions? Please type in the chat, then I will answer. But then I will go to the case study real fast because there's a lot of there's a lot
We
of
have question.
yeah, I have that. I actually have that in one of my I was about to talk about this case. It's like I got through this case in People from the South by CRCF. The lawyer from CRCF um, shared with me about this part. And for me, there's two. Also, the question is about DNA, collecting DNA. I would tell the whole room first what she asked. So there is an incident that people in the South actually got their DNA collected. Correct me, please, if I'm wrong. But I talked to their lawyer, and she viewed that is a major abuse. And I think so because first of all, we all know that DNA is a personal data, and like our friend said in the chat, there is no balance necessity and there's no proportionality, which is why when they say ความมั่นคง when they say national security, is it so does that mean that it rule out all the proportionality in a way that you should have weighed that with the DNA of the people? From what the lawyer in CRCF told me, there's actually no proportionality test. I would say people are illegally, like the police are illegally collecting that, trying to argue that this law gives them the power. If I would be their attorney, I would argue that because if you want to take someone DNA, it would be on the same level as when you want to tell someone to give them the fingerprint. A fingerprint is also a personal data. And in Thai judicial system, you do not need to all the case give designated DNA or designated fingerprints because there are cases where the defendant have never argued that he's not in the event. There are cases that the defendant never actually argued that the person in the indictment is not him. So in cases like that, if you're going to take their personal data like your hair, the DNA, fingerprints, I would say that it's over proportionate. Now back to the case study. About the case study, I actually divided it into several instances that I have seen. Most of it that I would say would be something that I have seen and lived through. So I've seen my client living through that, and I want to share a little bit so that people from around the world or friends of the like mind, human right defender, attorney at law everywhere can see if it's something similar to what you have been living through. So one of the things that I find amazing about the cases in the court is there is a huge leak on personal data like history of digital wallet, banking data. In the case, it appears in the case, the prosecutor actually applied that in, but that was not the information of the defendant. In that case, it was a case that the government were trying to indict a person saying that he conduct one crime, intruding into one parameter of the government center. But in order to do that, since they do not have anything, they actually have no video, they have no any other evidence, they really need to stalk him, I would say, to find out what he did, what is actually his behavior through his personal life, like how he used things and everything. And by doing that, because it was not completely enough, the police actually put a huge surveillance around his friend and people who they believe that spent time with him on that time. So in order to make that indictment, there's a huge surveillance information that they claim to be legal evidence around other citizens. And this, in my opinion, is already a break of the chain of custody. And not just that, it's not legal. You actually have to ask for the court permission probably after the first day when you hear the motion to นัดตรวจพยานหลักฐาน when you actually do um, the first day of the hearing, when you actually have to do that. I lost my word what exactly that is in English, but yeah. Anyway, so on that case, I find it interesting because afterward in the last 2 years, I have seen so many times that the police actually retrieve evidence and claim that this is a legal evidence from things that you would not believe should be legal. Sometimes if they just stalk a person on their public post, okay, it's fine. But the digital wallet and everything, I think it's a little bit too much, and also very much over proportionate, because they actually give not only on what is about the defendant, but they give 3, 5, 6 page about that person, all behavioral, digital banking behavioral, and they do not redact anything out. So that's one of the things that I have seen. And what I have seen also is that sometimes the police and other people who are just also normal Thai citizen or normal government, they actually sometimes intentionally provide information leakage, and they do not fear any consequence. So there is a case that a Thai royalist has plan a report to, like, I actually I will give you the link later, but so they give away personal information about, I think, almost let me see, I think almost, yeah, so they give away information about activists that they think are not aligned with their politic belief. So one way the royalists was creating doxing situation. So at the end, Google has removed 2 custom Google Map documents that include names and address of hundreds of suspect of people who they think are anti-royalists. And Google, in a way, not Thai judicial system, but Google has to bring that down. So many times in Thailand right now, people are just doing it all the time. We have seen from younger generation, like younger activists, 15, 17, 18 years old, they got followed to their house without the police fearing any consequences. The problem is, how did that information leak out? As a policeman, as a government officer, maybe you do have legal power to actually get a hold of where they live in maybe the government registration, but does that give you or other people the right to spread the information about their address? So this is what we're seeing. The DNA I already talked about. Kun Mayuri, she asked about that. And one of the things that I find very, very, I would say stupid, like why would they do that? Because even before PDPA, we have the strict rules about warrant, search, and everything. So up until now, Thailand, in most cases, I would say that human rights and environmental rights activists are constantly abused and deprived of their right to control their own data. The government do not really help improve that situation at all since PDPA come into effect. Police still confiscated personal belonging, IT, electronic, phone all the time. Now, without anything, I still have to talk about this. I intend not to talk about it so much because there's also other great organizations who have been seriously working on this for a long time. Their name is iLaw. I actually steal this from them. I already asked, but there were an incident that anti-human right uh that human right activists are also seriously attacked using Pegasus spyware. And in that regard, it's a very, very big scenario because if you understand what Pegasus spyware can do, it's not just listening or wiretapping. Sometimes they would see the whole screen. So what happened when you enter a person hardware using Pegasus is that if I would have been texting my mom or typing any sort of password, they would be able to see. And if I'm in my bed and I put my phone on, the camera might still be turned on. So these are the example of what people who came out trying to make change in the world is seeing in Thailand. And there's more. For example, the one on the left, this is the newest one. Sometime when there's event like the Privy Council or His Royal Highness or graduation ceremony are going somewhere in Thailand, sometimes the government actually have a list of personal data of people already in their hand, and they're not afraid to exercise it or spread it or process it and give it over to other people who are unauthorized. So this case, it's in Thai, but it's incident where people got actually stalked or called people without knowing where did the police or the army get their number from. People got called and asked, where are you going? Because they want to surveillance if the kid will do something. Will they stage a strike? Will they stage a protest? Additionally, there are also people getting followed. So not even just calling, but getting followed or visit you at your house. So in that regard, you need to ask yourself, what is the government doing? They know that this is personal data, your phone number, your name, where you live. They are perfectly aware of that, but they still do that every single day. So I think in the last 3 years, this sort of news that we're seeing has not lessened, in my opinion, but it will coordinate from the event. So if they think that His Royal Highness will visit some parameter or there's gonna be a graduation ceremony, people in that area will start getting contact to their personal data. And the worst of it all, this is my case. I I can actually I can actually talk about it. This is one of the I think this is one of the very early on case. So Professor Shanwit, who is also a very big name in Thailand, I would say he's a great academic, and he's also a friend to Benedict Anderson. Our friends here in the room, if you're from Indonesia, you will know Benedict Anderson. He also got followed, and this is when I'm talking about this case, it showcases how the police and the Thai government are not scared of doing this. They're not even trying to hide it because this is a guy who's a famous professor. He worked for so long in Thammasat University. He served in many committee, and then one time, four policemen show up to his condominium, and they also did not ask for permission. They actually just went to the juristic person, and the juristic person take them up to exactly the door. So we have to, when this kind of thing happen, we need to ask ourselves, where did you retrieve this personal data? If you retrieve this personal data through governmental means, how do we actually stop the government when the government themselves become a big brother? And these are not These are not all. These are just 5% of everything. One of the interesting thing that I find is that through Amnesty International, Regional Thai newest report, it talks mainly about children. But in that one, it also talked about the fact that most children got followed by police. The police would show up and try to talk to their parents. The police would be able to locate where they live or know how to contact their parents and try to stop them in doing what the police think that they're doing. So in this report from Amnesty International, and I will leave the link, you will see so many problematic aspects that the Thai government has not doing what they're promised in the ICCPR, UDHR, and also they do not respect the right to privacy. These are the first three is the interesting read about doxing in our region, of course, the Amnesty report, and also it's a little bit old, the last one, but it's about how the government is doing their digital policy. The last one I make it in black because some of the practitioner might be interested. This is not really the guideline, but this is the case study on the enforcement of Thai PDPA. It's unfortunately again in Thai, but if you're working with that, you might need to check that. They give thorough explanation. It's quite useful when you're a practitioner. And that's it. And also, I think I use up all the time. Very sorry, guys.
It's okay. Any question from the audience?
Yes, please do ask question. It's actually a very big topic. I'm so sorry. Maybe I should did something more less of this. What do I do? Do I unmute P. Natalie myself or
Not
Thank
actually.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Natalie.
okay. Thank you, Kunthika. Actually, I have a small question for you to ask. It seems like because my experience also working in Thailand, the government is giving more power to protecting the security, especially national security over the people privacy. In this situation, there's a lot of online attack to human rights defender or online activists. Do you have any suggestion of the people, human rights defender, of how they should be, what they should do to be more protected on the line of their work? Thank you.
wow. Okay, first of all, on legal terms, okay, consult with your lawyers. There's always going to be a legal ground. It's going to be a hard case. We have seen from Pegasus, from iLaw, they're trying to file for indictment. I'm not seeing the court accepting that or caring that that should be a big issue. So on the legal side, one part. But what you asked is a very interesting question because there has been a study through many international organizations, and I think somewhat on the technical term, many people, many technicians, computer scientists, even Edward Snowden, I would say, or other people would give you this advice. It's not really gonna help you, but it's a then do not, then whatever you're gonna do and what the thing that you're gonna do and you think is what the government is interested on and they're spying for that, do not do it on digital world. Do it analog, do it on analog. So that would be one of the first thing. Second thing, I think data laundering could be one of the tool. So right now there's also already in some other country, not so much in Thailand, but you somehow need to also delete some of your data. You need to also groom your data, the data that you post. You also need to be aware of not checking in real time all the time so that you're providing people already a real-time GPS location of where you are, what you're gonna do. And personally, since 2015, I think invisibility is another superpower. I know that we all like to get connect. We all like to share happiness, sadness with with friends, with family, with other 5,000 friends in your social media. But sometimes when you do that, to some point, the technology nowadays, they have enough AI, they have enough technology to process it until they could somehow profile you. If you give so much information about yourself out there, sometimes people will be able to profile you. By profiling, I mean they could make a rough estimation of what your decision would be if this kind of case happened. If this question arise before you, maybe they would have enough information that they collect from all your social media about you to know that you would react like that. So this is one of the 3 rules that I can think of right now. I still think that the not doing anything in digital one would be one of the most important one for Thailand human rights activists, because I do have a feeling that when you talk on the phone, that's where they're listening. They're really interested. From Pegasus, they're really interested in wiretapping you. They're really interested in listening of what you're doing. They want to know where you're going, what's the next ride. So that would be what my suggestion is. Any other
Okay, thank you
questions?
for your answer. Now it comes to the time to close our seminar. So thank you so much, Kunthika, for your time and the knowledge you provide us today. For the audience, if you're interested in any topic, please feel free to email us, or if you know someone who would like to be our speaker for the next session, and please directly contact us. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a good night. Thank you.